Hey, good morning, everybody. Let's give it up for Bonnie and say thank you so much for all of our wonderful work. Big hugs to you. Thank you, Bonnie. Wonderful to see you. I'm sorry we couldn't see you in person. And ladies and gentlemen, we need to give it up for the one, the only Congressman Mike Thompson. He has been a fighter for working families and seniors and our kids for decades now. And we are so grateful for his legacy and his work. And of course, his supervisor, Linda Hopkins. No one works harder on behalf of the Board of Supervisors than Linda Hopkins, and so excited to be seeing her as chair next year. What I'd like to be able to do very quickly is do a quick roundup about what's happening here across the Golden State, start on all issues of budget, talk about where we're at with schools. If it's all right with everyone, update where we're going on the coronavirus and expanded testing. Talk about climate change. No, the climate is not getting cooler, even though our president says it is. That guy is a nutball. We'd like to talk a little bit about law enforcement reform and then also talking about the most vulnerable in our state. So let's get moving real quick. So look, we started 2020 in California, #1 in the nation in job growth. We started as the 5th largest economy in the world in a $6 billion surplus. Now, due to the coronavirus and the Trump recession, we are now seeing about a $54 billion deficit. It is the quickest turnaround that we've seen in an economy in the history of the state of California. We have about 3.7 million on unemployment. We believed we peaked in unemployment in April at 13%. We're now down to 10%. We're going to continue to see a gradual decline in the unemployment numbers across California. This virus, both on virus numbers and our economy, have impacted communities of color and women in particular. We'd like to talk about that here in just a bit. So here's where we're at right now about how we're investing. #1, we have to continue to invest in strong public schools. We held all of the budget cuts off of the students and in the classrooms and our teachers. We kept them whole this year, which is absolutely critical. We're investing an additional $5.3 billion to be able to bridge the digital divide, to making sure that all students have the opportunity to be able to learn off of a device like a Chromebook or a laptop, that they all have hotspots, and or school districts have the ability to be able to purchase longer term, cheaper internet plans that they can then hand out free of charge, of course, to all students. We're investing in CAL FIRE. We're investing an additional $85 million into firefighting resources here in California. We're going to hire an additional 179 full-time firefighters, 350 seasonal firefighters. We're bringing in 12 brand new Black Hawk helicopters that will be able to fight fire in the night. And we've just struck an innovative deal with the United States Coast Guard. They're going to phase out 7 C-130 cargo planes, these giant cargo planes. We're going to then phase them into the CAL FIRE firefighting fleet, and they will become our largest fire bombers in the sky, and we'll be taking ownership of the first 2 in 2021. We're investing $650 million in additional homeless housing, permanent homeless housing. You're going to see a significant investment in Sonoma, in Marin, and Mendocino, Lake, and Napa counties, which is absolutely critical as well. Switching to the issue of the coronavirus, here's where we're at right now with the coronavirus. In the coming weeks, you're going to see a new standard established where we're going to be focusing on a 48-hour turnaround time, no matter where you get tested at a state testing site. We cannot afford 3 days, 5 days, let alone 10 days to be able to get results back. So how are we doing that? #1, we're going to expand the number of sites. #2, you're going to see a significant expansion in lab space across California. We believe that we're going to need to be in this for the long haul, despite of what some of the claims by the president is saying, and we need to plan for the worst. So we got to expand our lab space, which will be expanded significantly this year as well. In addition, California can no longer rely on the CDC and the feds to be able to secure testing supplies. So we are entering into our own contracts for specialty plastics and reagents, the liquids that are within the testing supplies, so that we're able to get a continued flow into the state and not having to rely on the federal government for our testing supplies, which is critical. You're also going to see a significant focus on rapid testing at school sites. To be able to reopen our school sites, we have to be able to offer school employees and administrators the ability to get tested and tested quickly, to be able to quell any breakouts within our schools. So that's going to be another significant focus, as well as expanding testing in underserved communities, and in particular within the Latinx population. The vast majority of those who are being impacted by this coronavirus, communities of color, but in particular Latinx communities. It is absolutely unacceptable, and there's going to be a much more aggressive focus on that to be able to quell. Let's quell the issue. I'd like to talk about a vaccine quickly as we keep moving. So look, we may see a vaccine by the end of the year. Where we believe we're going to see a vaccine that will be ready for prime time and distribution will most likely be in the first 3 to 6 months of 2021. It is going to take a minimum of 6 to 9 months once a vaccine is out on the market to be able to get a significant impact into society. So just because we have a vaccine doesn't mean it's going to be moving quickly. So what we heard from the CDC today, even if we have a vaccine by the end of the year, the state believes it will probably be in the first 3 to 6 months of 2021. It won't be until at least the end of 2021 until we go back to some sort of normalcy. So that's just want to be straight talk with you on all issues of the vaccine. Climate change. Bottom line is this: climate change is real. We are not going to be cooling. According to the president, he said that we're going to be cooling. There is nothing. It's malarkey. It's crap. We are not going to be cooling. So let's talk about climate change and how it's impacting California. Number one, back in the 1970s, our fire season in the Western United States was 172 days. Today, it's 222 days. Fire season is going much longer into the fall. Number two, the acreage burned today compared to the 1970s, a 500% annual increase, 500%. When we take a look at what the EPA is saying, the federal government is saying, since the 1950s, we've seen a dramatic decline in snowpack here in California and the Western United States. And that's alarming for us in California because 60% of our drinking water supply comes from the snowpack. And we're also seeing an increase in temperatures, both in Southern and Northern California. And we have to remember, 57% of California's forest land is owned by the federal government. The United States Forest Service California office needs a minimum of $300 million per year to remove dead and dying trees, vegetation management on their lands. They're not getting anything close to this under this current Trump administration. The state of California for the last 4 years, even though we only own and manage 3% of all the forest, we're advancing $200 million every year for our lands, as well as protecting cities and counties around neighborhoods from fire. So that's an important detail. I'd like to quickly talk about law enforcement reform. We had law enforcement reform move this year. You're going to see additional bills moving next year. Number one, a bill is on the governor's desk that would automatically get the attorney general involved in any officer-involved shooting that includes a death of an unarmed civilian, so you have a neutral party investigating. Number two, we are no longer going to allow the neck restraint that we saw that the Minneapolis police officers advanced and murdered George Floyd. That will soon be illegal here in California. We expect the governor to be able to sign that bill. And we're also going to be protecting journalists' ability to be able to cover all of these First Amendment events. There have been over 700 detainments, assaults, and arrests of journalists across this nation covering First Amendment events, particularly protests, and they will now be protected under California law, and it's now no longer to be legal to be able to detain them intentionally and or attack them intentionally. We still have to go further. In particular, if there is a law enforcement officer that has multiple offenses, whether it's sexual assault, whether it's assault on an unarmed civilian, we should be able to strip that badge away from that law enforcement officer. I will say the vast majority of police officers in this state, they're in the job to do good. And in any profession, there are some that won't, which means we need to ensure that they no longer are able to be hired here in the state of California. Quickly, on the most vulnerable, and I'll wrap it up here, Bonnie, and turn it back over to you. Number one, the state of California has now extended all healthcare benefits for Medi-Cal to any individual under the age of 19 no matter your immigration status. If you're undocumented in California, up to 19, you're eligible now for covered California, which is absolutely critical. We need to continue to expand that. Number two, we have to get serious about single-payer healthcare. This state is a majority Democratic state. We need to be able to grow a backbone and move forward with single-payer healthcare once and for all. We have a commission that is now focusing on that. They continue to study it. It's funded as far as the study. We got to pull the Band-Aid off and start moving towards a data-driven approach to implement single-payer healthcare. 2/3 of minimum wage earners in California are women, 2/3. My mom was a bank teller for 21 years. We struggled. And the reason I say that is California has also passed the strongest equal pay law in America, where it is now illegal to pay a man more than a woman when it comes to equal work. And we just passed one of the strongest paid family leave bills in America, because again, 2/3 of minimum wage earners in California are women. And when we talk about income inequality, we can't talk about the subject without focusing first on women and kids. I'll just end it right here. We've said it before. I'm going to say it one last time. Our democracy is at stake on November 3rd. And I think me talking like this 5 years ago, some would say that I'm a conspiracy theorist. The heart of our nation is at stake on November 3rd. It is up to all of us to be able to get out. And I will tell you, election officials are projecting the highest voter turnout since 1908 here in the United States of America. Both Republicans and Democrats are enthused. They're going to be turning out. We have to make sure that we get folks out here in California, but we have to get folks out throughout the nation and elect Joe Biden. And I just want to remind you, we are going to be in an all vote by mail ballot this coming November. You should be receiving your ballots no later than that first week of October. Thank you so much, Bonnie. Thank you for having me. And I'm really grateful to be with you today.